You're listening to the 49 Carats Podcast, a 49ers Goldmine production with Stephanie Sanchez.
What's going on, everyone, and welcome to another edition of the 49 Carats Podcast. I'm your host, Steph, and there was no 49ers training camp today, but we're going to keep it rocking with a new episode this week. And today I am joined by 49ers cap guru, Jason Hurley. He is the owner of 49erscap.com as well as vikingscap.com. Pretty much any salary cap question that you have in regards to the 49ers or Vikings, this guy can answer for you. And so that's pretty much what we're going to be doing today. There's a lot happening as far as like Deebo's contract, and also have some questions about Jimmy Garoppolo's contract, and maybe what a Nick Bosa extension could look like next year. That's coming in the horizon. So going to pick his brain a little bit with that. But Jason, how are you doing today?
Good. How are you doing today, Steph?
I'm not too bad myself. Well, before we get started talking about the salary cap of the 49ers, I just wanted to ask you, how did you get started, being interested in salary cap? And because I've been following you for a couple years now, and you're on top of it. Like every time there's a new move, you do all the calculations, and you seem to know way more than the average person. So how'd you get into this?
It actually started back in high school. I was just so interested in the business side of the NFL and really sports, basically. Any sport. But really, the NFL really caught my eye. Being a 49ers fan, I didn't see anybody really doing this type of thing. And I mean, I'm going back to like 2005 when I was in high school, around 2003, graduated in 03. And then I just got interested in it. It was just something fun to do. I thought it was something quirky and geeky and nerdy, so I didn't really let anybody know until finally in 05, someone on the 49ers web zone had messaged me and asked me if I wanted to help him with his website, ninercapital.com at the time. So I just got into it, and it's just something that I just love. And it's something that I love, that I have the knowledge of salary cap, of the contracts, of just everything. It's just everything about it. It just intrigues me.
Yeah, definitely. And like I said, you have a lot of great information, and so it seems like it's pretty much like self-taught then, right?
Yeah. I pretty much.
That's awesome.
I pretty much taught myself how to understand the salary cap. And then you look at the collective bargaining agreement, the CBA.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that thing's like 400 pages deep. And it's got like so much about everything. Player salaries, about benefits, everything you can think of in the NFL that's in there. So I just decided that this is just something that's so fun to do. It's so fun to look at the contracts, to think. I had people ask me, how much a guy is making and everything.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just, it's great to be able to tell them that, Deebo's getting this, or Kittle got this, or that. It's just, I've been having a blast since 05 doing this.
Well, in that case, you're going to have a lot of fun on this show today because I have nothing but questions for you. But first, before we get into the 49ers question, just wanted to ask a quick question. What dog do you have? Because I hear the little howling in the background.
Yeah,
My guess would be husky, but
I have a blue tick coonhound that is very not happy that my mother is upstairs and she's not down here. She's very. She has this attention, this attachment. She she's just crazy. She's looking at the stairs like open. My mom will come down, but she's not coming down. I'm sorry
Well,
about that. I was
no,
hoping
no,
the
no.
headphone.
You're okay. Just I was just curious. I don't mind. We all got pets, and they do
Yeah,
their thing. They want to be heard as well.
yeah,
All right. Well, let's get into the first bit of questions here because I have questions about the Deebo contract because, of course, as
yep,
we all know, that was the latest, big extension, big money move
yep.
that the 49ers made, and that's something we've been waiting on. So we finally got some details on Deebo's extension. And, I'm not going to ask you to explain the entire contract for us because we could be here all night, right?
Yeah.
But rather, I'm just going to ask, like, what were your thoughts on how the contract is structured? And is there anything that, stands out to you as far as, being team friendly? Or is there anything that like piqued your interest in regards to this contract that, like, ooh, that's interesting, that's creative, or, something like that?
When I looked at the Deebo contract and I heard the news that Deebo was signing the 3-year extension, um, it was really, to me, I felt like it was a great deal for both sides.
Yeah.
Really great
Agreed.
deal for both sides. Um, Looking at the contract, it's hard to say like what, like, is it team friendly? Is it not? I mean, it is team friendly, but it's also friendly for Deebo.
Yeah.
And one thing that really intrigued me about the contract that I've never seen in a contract is they actually have his per game roster bonuses and workout bonuses. They became guaranteed. His 2023 per game roster bonus and his 2023 and 2024 workout bonus became guaranteed today. And I'm
Today.
guessing that's yeah, it's something that I've never seen. I've never heard of that happening, and it was reported by Pro Football Talk. And I looked at it, and I had to double take because I was like, I've never seen that. I've never seen where a team will guarantee a per game roster bonus. Teams will guarantee a regular roster bonus. That's what the 49ers did with Jimmy Garoppolo until they got
Hmm.
that huge um, year one cap number when they gave him like a $28 million guaranteed roster bonus. But I have never seen where a team guarantees the roster bonus per game, roster bonus, and a workout bonus. That shocked me. And
Yeah. So it
it's
seems
just,
like they got like creative with the guarantees, and like we've been
yeah,
hearing, or we figured like this whole time that the guarantees was kind of going to be the sticking point in this contract.
yeah.
That Debo wanted a lot of guarantees. So do you think them doing it this way kind of like, is it more team friendly? Like how do you see that?
I want to say it's down the middle. It's really friendly for both sides. But
Okay.
I'd say, yeah, it's team friendly. And I think Debo is definitely happy with what he got.
Oh yeah.
Being able to get a 3-year deal where he can become a free agent at 30 years old, which is, you know, it's not an old age. I know people want to say that, when he turns 30, he's going to be worn down. And I just, unless some catastrophic injury happens, I don't see that happening. I think Devo is going to excel at this wide back role, and going to keep doing his thing. But getting that kind of contract, 71 and a half, 71.55 minimum base value, and then having that, what also intrigued me and made me realize that these reporters were so off on the wide back role was he has
Mm-hmm.
$1.95 million in rushing incentives. He can
Yep.
he can get $650,000 for 380 or more rushing yards. He can get $150,000 if he scores 3 or more rushing touchdowns. Right there, it caps out at, it maxes out at 650 each year. But that's, if he keeps going this way, he's going to see the entire $73.5 million, in my opinion.
Oh,
The way he
absolutely.
plays.
Yeah, I
Yeah,
totally agree with that because even if you look at last season, what he did, he had close to those numbers as far as like the yardage goes, and that was with
yeah,
him having just pretty much half the season as a main like wide back, where he was
yeah,
getting
yeah,
over two-ish carries a game or more a game. Um, so I thought that was interesting as well. Now, um, you have the 49ers currently at two two million $814,090
yep,
under
under the
their
cap.
2022 adjusted cap. Um,
Yep,
but there's this other guy on the roster, right? That's still on the roster, Jimmy Garoppolo. Um, what can
yep,
you tell us about his contract? Because I feel like there was a lot of misinformation on Jimmy's contract, and like a lot of people were like, just cut him. Um,
right.
and there's a reason that the 49ers kept Jimmy Garoppolo up to this point. At this point, I think they can cut him, right? And they can
Yeah,
get 24 million. But there was a point in the offseason where they would have kind of been dumb to cut him. Can you explain and educate
yeah,
some of us fans here as to why that was?
yeah. Okay, so in Jimmy's contract that he obviously signed back in 2018, ha- thanks to us going to the Super Bowl in the 2019 season, going in 2020 playoffs, his last 2 years had an injury guarantee of $7.5 million. But that was only if he was released while hurt. It wasn't like an injury guarantee where it guaranteed on April 1st, like the 49ers love to do, which
Mhm.
I'm all for. But Jimmy, $7.5 million, it would have been ridiculously stupid to waste $7.5 million just to
Yeah.
appease a part of the fan base that wanted us to be aggressive or go out and overpay, even if it meant acting like the Rams, which it worked for the Rams, but it doesn't mean it's going to work for every team.
Right.
But
Um, so on Jimmy Garoppolo's contract, so they could cut him now, but it seems like they want to hold on to him. Like they're really adamant on finding a trade partner, and they've been pretty hopeful that one trade partner will pop up, before the season really begins and before they get to
yeah,
53 cuts.
yeah,
And so I don't know like how much about other teams' cap situation, but I know like two
yeah,
teams that kind of stand out as potential trade partners right now are, of course, the Cleveland Browns,
yep.
and I might even throw the Steelers out there because I've seen that they have some issues with their
Interest
quarterback position right
injuries.
now. It's shaky.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah,
so as far as like the 49ers go and Jimmy Garoppolo's contract, we saw what the Browns did with Baker Mayfield, in which they ended up paying a portion of Baker's salary,
yep.
and that kind of facilitated a trade. Do you feel like the 49ers should or would have to do something like that in order to get a Garoppolo trade going?
Should they? No. The difference between Baker Mayfield and Jimmy Garoppolo's contracts, Baker's contract was fully guaranteed.
Yeah.
Had the Browns just cut him, they owed him, I think it's like $18 million it would have been. Jimmy, he's not guaranteed a penny unless he's on the week 1 roster. So, should they? No. Would they? I doubt it.
Okay.
I doubt it.
So yeah, it's this Jimmy situation is so interesting because it's
Yeah.
like they are waiting, but I don't see them. Uh, I don't see him being on the roster past the 53 cut, but who
No.
knows?
No.
Yeah, like so.
Yeah. No.
So you kind of don't see that as a real possibility, just based on like because 2.8 million doesn't really give them a lot of flexibility to work with throughout the season, right? Like they need more than that.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. By releasing Jimmy, they're going to save over $24 million. I projected in a couple articles that they'll probably have close to $18 million when everything is said and done. And what people have to realize is that right now we've only got the top 51 salaries counting against the cap. When the season starts, you've got player 52 and 53 of your 53-man roster. Then you've got to factor in the injured players, your 16-man practice squad. So I'm thinking 18 million is probably where they're going to be at. Maybe they can get to 20 million, but they're not going to have like $25 million or 27 to go into the season. It's just not going to happen because of, like I said, you only got 51 players counting against the cap along with dead money. Once the season
Right.
starts, everyone that's on the roster counts, including injured players.
Okay. So yeah, like the 49ers, like at this time with the Deebo contract as well, they do have a lot of money tied up to their stars at this point. So do you feel like there's any looking at all of those big contracts that they have
Yep.
in the cap, do you consider that there might be a certain point, maybe a certain year in the future where it's like, ooh, like they're gonna have to make some changes, or they're gonna have to release some people, trade some people, or restructure? They're gonna have to get creative. Like, do you see a fork in the road somewhere where the 49ers are kind of in trouble with the cap?
No, I don't. As
Awesome. I like the
long
sound of that.
as long as they keep it smart like they're doing, and as long as we see this boom in revenue like the NFL keeps talking about, we got 2023 is when the new TV deals kick in. The
Yeah.
NFL Sunday Ticket might be going to Apple, Amazon, Google. Who knows where it's going to go to now? Streaming only. Maybe it'll stay on DirecTV and stream. Who knows? But they're going to get a lot of money and a lot of revenue, which means the cap's going to skyrocket up big time. And I don't foresee an issue with really any of their contracts because of the way they've structured them. They can get out of pretty much any contract they want to.
Is
Outside
that
of
just
out,
it,
out
it
outside of any contract that has like a lot of fully guaranteed money, and when I say that, I mean like a Trey Lance right now, because he's a
mhm.
first round pick. But any veteran that they've signed, they can get out of. It's 1-2 years down the road, they're going to be just fine.
Is so it, the fact that they can get out of them, is that just because of the way that they have structured the contracts, where like towards the because I've seen some of their deals where like towards the end of the year it was kind of like this with Jimmy Garoppolo, right, where the end
Yep,
of his contract was kind of like dummy years in a way where
they weren't going to see it anyway.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
so
yeah,
is that kind
yeah,
of what they tend to do, you feel like?
yeah. The way they structure contracts, they like to backload them cap wise, front load cash wise. And when I say front load cash wise, like with Deebo, he got over 24 million in a signing bonus. and then he'll get a $9.215 million option bonus next year, which is right now guaranteed, fully guaranteed. It's a protected option bonus, so he's guaranteed to get it.
Okay.
So yeah, I don't see the way they structure the contracts is just it's amazing the way they do it because they backload everything, but they're not in the position where they're going to be hurting against the cap. Yes, they had to make some restructures this offseason. They wouldn't have had to if they had been able to release Jimmy Garoppolo, but they weren't going to do that anyway, even if he was healthy in March. But no,
Right. So,
I don't see any issues.
okay. So it seems like they're kind of just kicking the can down the road.
Yeah,
And then as soon as they get in
yeah,
front of the can, they just kick it again, backload
yeah,
another contract. So,
yeah,
okay. And I know the 49ers, we've heard this so much. Like, I don't know much about the cap where I can say myself that, Parag, um, without a doubt is, really good. But I've seen other people say it. So I'm like, yeah, like Parag is really good. So you would say that you're a big fan of the way that, Parag is structuring these
yeah.
contracts, right?
The way Prague does things, I'm a big fan. Not necessarily the lowballing offers at first, but
Yeah.
the contracts themselves, yeah, he's a genius at what he does.
Yeah,
Really is.
absolutely. Yeah. Really quick, let's get to this question really quick. From Mr. Cortez, what's going on, man? What are the
Okay.
odds that we sign Debo after the 3 years? And I guess like how you can answer this is in 3 years, are the 49ers gonna have that money to be able to allocate to another big Debo contract extension?
Yeah. They'll be able to re-sign him
All right.
because
All right.
one of the big things
Love it.
is one of the big things with Debo's contract is in 2024, 2025, he has like $20 million base salary and then a $16 million base salary the next year, 24, 25. So they can extend him, lower the cap hit, and just basically, like we said, kick the can down the road.
Right. So it'd actually
But
be
yeah,
wise of them to get that extension, like if they wanted to get that extension done before it's getting to the end, lower
oh,
the
oh
his like
yeah,
cap
yeah,
number and then do it
yeah,
all over again.
because he has the two voidable years, and if the contract voids and there's no extension, it leaves dead money. This is something that they have an issue with Jimmy Ward next offseason. He set the count 6.395 million against the cap, but he's not signed for next year. That's dead money from the restructures they've done. So if they actually wanted to extend him right now, they could probably extend Ward. They would save some cap room too. They could save up to 6.224 million, and they could probably get his cap number next year to be like right around that 6.395, maybe 7 million, maybe a little bit more than that. But other than that, yeah, I don't see.
And that's great to hear because I know a lot of us fans are like big fans of Jimmy Ward, and I could totally see him being a Niner for life.
Yeah,
Finish his career out in San Francisco. We'd love to see that. So, I mean, that's great. Hopefully, they can make that happen. Now I have a question about Nick Bosa
yep,
because that seems to be the next big extension in
yep,
line for this team. And now that they got the Deebo contract out of the way, it's like all hands on deck for Bosa, who is, you know, deservedly going to get a record breaking contract most likely. And I've seen
yep,
a lot of people mention that, he's going to want a fully guaranteed contract. Certainly he's going to get more than his brother Joey.
Yep.
So what are your thoughts on a potentially fully guaranteed one? Do you think the 49ers even do that? Because they're, it doesn't seem like a 49ers thing to do, but at the same time, Trent Williams also got a huge contract that wasn't the norm, I guess, for the 49ers, you can say. So, like, how feasible do you think a Nick Bosa potentially fully guaranteed contract could be for the 49ers?
I don't see that happening.
You don't see that happening. Okay. And neither
I
do
only,
I.
I only see that with the quarterback right now. I know his agent might push for fully guaranteed, but the 49ers aren't going to go fully guaranteed.
Do you think
At some
Nick
point,
Bosa?
yeah, at some point in the future, I think contracts might become where they're pretty much fully guaranteed. I mean, his contract was fully guaranteed as a rookie, but that's just being a first-round pick. You get your contract pretty much fully guaranteed. Depending, now all 32 picks are getting it of the first round.
Right. And so that kind of like not worries me but it's early, obviously, but at the same time, like, I don't know, I worry that could be a deal breaker. I hope it's not between the two sides. Because I agree with you. I don't think the 49ers are going to dish out a fully guaranteed contract. Like, that's kind of crazy. But then at the same time, if he has another season like he had last year, then Nick Bosa is definitely going to want that. And I mean, I hope the two can make the sides work. I mean, it's still early, obviously. I don't even think they probably haven't even started really talking about it. But
yeah, from what I've seen, John Lynch said that they'll do that next year, which is smart.
Yeah.
Do it next year. You'll be able to lower his salary a bit. My projection for him would be $32 million right now a year, because I think Aaron Donald got around 31 or so, maybe a little bit more, and he's going to definitely break. He's going to be the next player. I thought this year he would be the next player to get over $30 million as a defensive player.
Mm-hmm. Donald,
so
you're saying?
I think $35 million is possible if he has the kind of season that he had last year, plus he becomes defensive player of the year. And he's definitely going to get more than his brother got, and he's definitely going to get more guaranteed money than his brother got. I can see it where it's over $110 million in guaranteed money, maybe 85, 90 million of it fully guaranteed.
Yeah, I feel like that's becoming the big thing. Like, a lot of the times, I think it seems like players are realizing that the average per year number is not important. I feel like in the past, players really strive to have like a really high, average on their yearly salary. But now I feel like players know what really matters is the fully guaranteed money. And so do you get the sense that players are like really starting to push for that more these days?
I think fully guaranteed money is more where you wanna look at, is more important to a lot of players. It's nice to say, oh, I got my client $35 million a year. That's agent talk. Agents love the per year money, the average. So I'd look at fully guaranteed money, overall guaranteed, fully guaranteed, and look at the structure of the contract is what's important to me.
Yeah, absolutely.
Not so much that this guy's making $50 million a year like Aaron Rodgers is.
And
not
especially
that he's making it, but averaging it.
Exactly, especially considering the fact what we were talking about earlier, that a lot of the time that money's backloaded, the money's backloaded, and the players aren't going to see that money anyway. So that makes the average per year kind of a moot point in that regard. Yeah. All right. Well, one last question for you before we go, because there's a there's football back on tonight. The Hall of Fame games getting started around right now. So one more question before I let you go
Yep.
here, and all the people watching. So there's been a lot of talk, throughout the years that the 49ers are somewhat cheap, they're conservative. Some fans, think that. But what are your thoughts? Because you've seen all the contracts, and especially lately, they've really made a point to pay their foundational pieces, right? So,
Mhm.
what would you say to the people who call this team cheap or conservative?
Yeah, I don't. This whole notion that the Yorks are cheap, I don't get that. Look at the contract that they gave to Colin Kaepernick. Look at the contract that they gave to Jimmy Garoppolo. They're not cheap. This regime is definitely not cheap. The first year they spent over, I'm not even sure what the amount is again, but they spent more money and they signed more free agents than Trent Baalke did in his entire tenure. As far as being conservative, I mean, at some point you have to be a bit conservative. You don't want to overdo it, and that's
Yeah.
where you're going to wreck your cap. And I think that's what happened with us in the late '90s, early 2000s, when we were really in salary cap hell, where we had to restructure every contract. We had to release players. We had to let players walk, let players go. It was bad back then. And I think that's one of the reasons why people think the Yorks are cheap. But, I mean, they're not. I mean, look at the contracts they've given out. They've given out an $85 million contract to George Kittle.
Yep.
They gave, I forget the exact number, but 19 million a year to Fred Warner. You just gave Deebo $71.5 million. They gave Jimmy Garoppolo 100. I forget $137.5 million.
Yeah. I mean, they
They
give it to
gave
the guys who they know deserve it,
Yes, the
right? And that's really what
foundational
matters.
players.
Yeah.
I know people are still hurt about the DeForest Buckner trade, and
Yeah.
trust
That
me,
one
I love
stings.
I love Buckner, but after Armstead's play last year, I feel like he's kind of making me forget about Buckner. I like
His.
Armstead. I've always been a fan of his, so I'm happy with where he's gone, where he's playing.
Yeah,
And I think
absolutely. I agree.
having Nick Bosa there, I think that this defense is so nasty though, it really is.
It is. And that's truly the foundational piece of this team, and they've done a great job at keeping like a great core intact. And
Yes, yeah,
so
yeah,
I mean,
and like I
you heard
said,
it here first. They're not
no,
conservative, guys.
no.
They're not cheap.
And just wait for next year with Nick Bosa, and in a couple
Hmm.
years with Trey Lance. If Lance is the guy that we all think he is, they're gonna pay him the kind of contract that the contracts now that like Kyler Murray got. You're gonna think that's a bargain. I mean, we could see uh, Trey getting 50 million a year. I mean, I think
Well,
it's
yeah.
possible. It depends, though.
Yeah, of course. It's still early. But yeah, like you said, if Trey Lance is as good as we think he's going to be, then
And
yeah, I mean,
watch
absolutely.
out for Ayuk, Brandon
Oh
Ayuk. I'm
yeah.
telling you, in 2 years he's gonna get an extension. I
And what are your
remember a
thoughts
lot.
on that really quickly? Because
Yeah,
Deebo Samuel, it's almost like they don't like to allocate too much money to one position. And so with the big contract that Deebo Samuel just had, and BA, who he might even get more because based on what I've seen this training camp, like he looks phenomenal. If he looks like the wide receiver one,
Yeah,
that's what I'm gonna say.
yeah,
So if he has a great
yeah.
year this year, what do you think about the 49ers potentially paying both of those guys? Would they do that?
I do think they would do that, and I think, and it is feasible. It's possible. Yes, I think they can do it and will do it. I, I think I wasn't really too happy with the 3-year extension, but now that I look at it, you got to figure Debo's going to be up in after 2025. They're probably going to do Ayuk in 2024. So they're going to have the cap room anyway to give to Ayuk and be able to get the Deebo. So I don't foresee any issues with them being able to extend Brandon Ayuk, allocating the money, and because Deebo isn't just a wide receiver. I mean, he's a weapon. He's the
Yeah.
true
Oh yeah.
definition of an offensive weapon.
Right.
So yeah,
Yeah.
I do believe it.
Awesome. Well, as fans over here, like we're probably ecstatic to hear that because I would love for Debo and Ayuk to be on this team for a really long time. So definitely would help Trey Lance out as well. So
Yeah,
Jason, I'm so happy that you came on today. Thank you so much for educating us a little bit on the cap today. We'll definitely have to do this again. But
yeah,
before you go, really quickly, do you want to just tell people where they can find you? Your website. Do
yep,
the shameless plug right now.
yep, yep. On Twitter at 49ers Cap, and go to 49erscap.com. Thank you
Awesome.
for having
Well,
me on, Steph.
absolutely, man. And thank you so much, guys, for watching. Enjoy the return of football. It is finally here. Have a good rest of your night, guys. Peace.